All right, we want to welcome everyone out today. I'm Houston Britton, President and CEO of the Pryor Area Chamber of Commerce, and we welcome you to Pryor, Oklahoma. We're very excited today to hear a great message by Chief Hoskins Jr. from the Cherokee Nation. But to start this, we're going to offer a prayer for our dinner, and then at that point, once I offer the prayer, we'll have the speaker's table. The chief proceed to the back. It's going to be kind of a line back there. Just grab your food and come back. We did that to kind of expedite so that we'd have plenty of time to take questions and have our message today. We'll come back and eat, and then approximately around 12:10, I'll stand up and we'll make some announcements, and then we'll get on with our program. So if you'll bow your heads with me, please. Our kind and gracious Heavenly Father, Father, we're so very thankful for this day, for the opportunity to come together, to fellowship and to have this meal. Father, we ask a special blessing upon that meal. Father, we're thankful for the opportunities that we have today, for the freedom that we have. We're thankful for the message and for that we'll get today, Father. We're thankful for those that are here, those that are still traveling. Please watch over and keep them safe. And Father, watch over us as we go back home today. And again, Father, may thy Spirit be with us today in this message. And Father, we're thankful for everything. We say these things in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. All right, so we'll have the speaker table followed by our sponsor tables, and then we'll go from that point. Please continue to eat if you're still eating. If you want more, we have plenty more left in the back. We don't want to take this home with us, so please take it home with you. Again, I'm Houston Britton. I'm the President and CEO of the Pryor Area Chamber of Commerce, and we're so very happy to have you here today. It's very nice to see this room full. I believe this is our 5th luncheon in a row where we've been over 100 individuals, so we're pretty happy about that. Dave Sturt still has the record at 175, so way to go, Dave. But Chief is moving up on you. He's at 160. So Chief, there's your challenge for next year. We need to beat Mid-America, okay? Anyway, welcome everyone. We're very happy to have you here today. If you're not from Pryor Creek, Oklahoma, we welcome you, appreciate you being here, and hope you enjoy today's message. So first of all, without further ado, we'd like to thank our sponsors. We'd like to thank Mid-America Industrial Park for the use of this expo, so thank you guys very much for that. We'd like to thank our presenting sponsors today, Northeast Electric Cooperative, so thank you guys for being a presenting sponsor. Our table sponsors include Mid-America Industrial Park, Cherokee Nation Career Services, Cherokee Nation Businesses, and GRDA and MUB. So thank you guys very much for your support. We'd also like to thank all of our member companies that are here. We appreciate you being here. We appreciate your support at the Chamber of Commerce for sure. We'd also like to thank any non-members that are here today. In the essence of time, I would make you stand and we would get your name and your social security number and all of those things. And make sure a good credit card so you can become a member. But we're not going to do that today. But we do encourage you if you'd like to join the chamber. I'd also like to thank Mid-America Grill for the lunch. So thank you guys if you enjoyed that. Please give them a round of applause. We can't do what we do at the Chamber of Commerce without our board. We have 15-member strong board and 4 advisories. So if you're a member of the board of directors for the Pryor Chamber of Commerce, could you please stand? So we have a few of them here today. So again, thank you guys very much for your support and for supporting the staff and what we do at the Chamber of Commerce. I'd also like to recognize our elected officials. So Crystal Campbell with Senator Mark Wayne's Mullins office is here. So Crystal, thank you. We have Yolanda Thompson, Mays County Assessor, and also the chairman of our board, so back there. We have Sarah Wallace, Mays County Court Clerk. Here's Sarah. We have Mayor Zach Doyle, Pryor Creek. Chief Jeremy Cantrell, Police Chief, Pryor Creek. We have Lori Blue, Pryor Creek Treasurer. Now I'm going to invite our Miss Janice Taylor, Treasurer for Cherokee Nation, to recognize the Cherokee Nation delegation, because there's a lot of you here that I don't know. I didn't have your names down, so if she messes up, it's on her.
I won't mess up.
Well, I am Janice Taylor, the Treasurer for Cherokee Nation, and I just want to say that it is awesome to have all of my Cherokee, the people I work with, the people who support me in my hometown. So I am thrilled to be able to introduce everybody. Your speaker for today, my friend, my chief, my boss, Chuck Hoskin Jr. Then we also have Deputy Chief Brian Warner. From the cabinet, we have Chief of Staff Corey Bunch. We have the Speaker of the Tribal Council, Mike Shambaugh. We have several council members here today, and again, I'm so glad to welcome them to my hometown. My council member, Danny Callison. We have the Secretary of the Tribal Council, Doris Smith-Patskowski. From the Tahlequah area, we have Sasha Black Fox Qualls. And we have from the J area, Melvina Shot Pouch. We also have a representative from our CMB Board of Directors, Brent Taylor. From our Tax Commission, Mike Doublehead. And then we have several people from our workforce here. You've worked with our career services people and our commerce department, and they have a whole table over there. So welcome Anna Knight, Diane Kelly, and the people that support them in doing what they do. Did I miss any elected officials? Oh, our executive chairman, Bill John Baker. Bill John is a longtime family friend, and sometimes you just get a little too comfortable with people, you forget. So sorry about that. But I do welcome my Cherokee family to my hometown, and the rest of you, I know you're going to enjoy what Chief Hoskin has to say.
Chief Baker, I knew I would mess up, so we let Janice mess up. So thank you, Janice, for doing that. I appreciate you. All right, speaking of our members, I do want to make an announcement here. We treasure our members and we appreciate what they do, but I do want to recognize Mr. Bill Cobb with the State Farm Agency. Today is his 48th anniversary as a State Farm agent. So can we applaud him, please? He had no idea I was going to do that. All right, without further ado, Chief Hoskin Jr. serves as the principal chief of the Cherokee Nation, the largest tribe in the United States with more than 460,000 citizens. Prior to being elected in 2019 and re-elected in 2023, he was the Cherokee Nation Secretary of State and also served as a member and deputy speaker for the Council of the Cherokee Nation. As principal chief, he increased minimum wage at the Cherokee Nation and Cherokee Nation businesses and secured the largest language investment in the tribe's history to expand Cherokee culture preservation. He appointed the tribe's first delegate to the United States Congress. He prioritized health and wellness initiatives, including record investments in behavioral health and addiction treatment. Chief Hoskin has also expanded tribal workforce training programs, sustainable housing, protections for natural resources, and educational opportunities for Cherokees of all ages. He, along with First Lady January Hoskin, has elevated the voices of women and children and their safety within the Cherokee Nation. Ladies and gentlemen, Chief Hoskin Jr.
Well,
Wadeau, Houston, and OCO, everyone. It's good to be back. It was around a year ago that I had the opportunity to speak with you, and a lot has happened in the last year for all of us. For the deputy chief and I, we got a second term, and we appreciate the opportunity to serve, and we're excited to serve. We still feel here in this second term a great deal of urgency, that there's more to be done on behalf of the Cherokee people, and that means working in communities, and we get a lot of occasion to do that. And certainly this community is among the places that we work in and work with. So many people in this room. Janice Taylor, our treasurer, has done such a great job. This community so close to her heart, and she introduced everyone, and she introduced council members and the chairman and a member of my cabinet. One thing that I know about the Cherokee Nation, the Cherokee people, we debate and disagree. And I always tell folks, if we agreed on everything, we wouldn't be Cherokee. It's just a very Cherokee thing to have a little family squabble from time to time. But I think one of the reasons that we are so effective, and I've been thinking about this morning because so many members of the council were with us in an event at Rogers State University, and so many are here, and the rest are out working in their communities. We rally around the things the Cherokee people want us to do. And I know people here know this, but in so much of the rest of government, there are these partisan squabbles that sometimes get the best of the best leaders in the country or in the state. We don't labor under that at the Cherokee Nation. I'm grateful for that every single day. It's not unanimity of thought or lack of disagreement, but it is a central focus on what do the people want, what have they asked us to do, how can we deliver, and we're not burdened under the things that I think often, frankly, strangle the government of the United States at times and hold us back at the state level, not just here, but across the country. So I feel very fortunate to be the chief of the Cherokee Nation at this time in our history. I've been doing a lot of traveling lately, and the deputy chief has been doing traveling, and then he's been locally at a lot of events, and I've spent some time crossing the country in the last year. As I do that, I think about the leaders that have come before me. The chairman, Bill John Baker's here, and his legacy is still being built as chairman of our businesses, which is a $1 billion business portfolio. And what he did as chief, and I got to see it up close in terms of investing in healthcare and education, housing in a way we had not been doing for a while. That's part of his legacy that I reflect on from time to time. He also, and I'm glad he has a good sense of humor because I can say this, he also sold the tribe's airplane when he got into office. So when I've been sitting in layover status and missing connections, I've been reflecting on Chairman Baker's legacy. But I actually have been thinking a lot about Chief Baker and his service alongside my father on the council and what he did as chief. And I think about this, sort of continuing on with the theme that Cherokee people aren't laboring under these sort of partisan divisions that divide a lot of government. Not only now, but over a period of time, we've been working together and we've been building on what our successors have done. You can look at, and I'll touch on a few things that we're doing today. You can look at some of the things we're doing today, and they often capture headlines, and they should, and they're the type of investments that I think the government, whether it's the local level, state level, or the government of the United States ought to be making, but it's really building upon a lot of what our successors have done. I mentioned what Chief Baker did in terms of healthcare and housing, and I'm just scratching the surface on his leadership, but you can go back to every chief. For example, a lot of what we're doing on healthcare are things that Chief Mankiller envisioned that we would do, and she helped create an environment in which we could do it as we've amassed the resources. So I'm sitting here thinking about this past really 5 decades of the Cherokee Nation, back to the 70s when the government of the United States frankly took its boot off the neck of the Cherokee Nation. We ought to say it plainly. Before then they had their boot on our necks. And when they got out of the way and let the Cherokee people do what any free people want to do and ought to get to do, which is to self-identify and govern themselves freely and fairly, and for Indian nations to be able to exercise the rights handed to us by our Creator and coming up from the people, we're doing great things, and we have done great things when that environment is what it is. That environment's not guaranteed, and that's the reason that I spend a fair amount of time in Washington, D.C. or Oklahoma City because we have to defend the sovereignty of the Cherokee Nation. We have to assert the sovereignty of the Cherokee Nation. Those things are all sort of big, broad concepts, but it all comes down to, do we have the ability to come into your community and invest in things that you care about? And it might be a road or a bridge or a water system, or it might be helping increase economic opportunities or lift up communities that need champions. It might be helping our people get an education. It might be leaning into really challenging areas that we all care about, like child care, like health care. That all depends on whether the sovereignty of the Cherokee Nation is intact, and it'll only be intact if it is used, if it's asserted, and if it's defended. And so that's why we spend a great deal of our time, the Deputy Chief and I and the Council, talking about those subjects and really making those subjects the centerpiece of what we do. It makes so much of what I'm going to talk about possible, and a great deal more. When I come to this community, I think about my grandfather. And I shared this last time, but I don't want to miss an opportunity to talk about him, particularly when I'm here. He was a union iron worker working close to where we are when he was a young man. And then he was called off to, and he enlisted actually in the Army of the United States to go fight in World War II, but he started to make a living right here in this community, living in Veneta, being an iron worker. I think about him in terms of the hard work that he committed to what he was doing, and I try to replicate that as best I can. And I think about the fact that he was a Cherokee, as proud a Cherokee as I've ever known, living at a time, I mentioned it a while ago, when the government of the United States believed that the sun ought to set on the Cherokee Nation, that our best days were behind us. They even had us maybe thinking that a bit, but we didn't give in to that. We didn't buy into the idea that the Cherokee Nation had really started to wither away at 1907 when the state of Oklahoma was imposed over tribal lands. And there were people in this country that not only predicted that that would happen, but were really counting on it happening. I know in my heart he wasn't among them that thought the best days were behind us. But surely, while he's working here, working really hard as an iron worker, and when he went off to fight for the United States and fight for freedom in World War II, he probably at times wondered if there was a Cherokee Nation in the future that could do what he knew from stories handed down to him we had done in the past. Of course, we all know that before anyone ever heard of a state of Oklahoma, the Cherokee Nation was governing these lands just fine, and in fact creating a great society by prioritizing the things that I think any government in this country ought to be prioritizing. I'm not talking about now, I'm talking about the 19th century, when after removal we put 70 cents of every dollar we had left into education. We put it into higher education. We put it into the first free system of public education in this area before the state of Oklahoma was even invented. We did that, and we're still doing that today. Before statehood, we were creating an economy based on building up the infrastructure as it was at that time in these little towns that Cherokee people founded. Every town really in this region was founded by Cherokees, and we believed that that was part of our future forever. That's why we invested in education. That's why we built up these towns. That's why we also invested in a government that stands today as one of the oldest democracies on the planet. And people don't often think about the Cherokee Nation as being one of the oldest democracies on this planet, but it's true. We started practicing democracy based on the written rule of law in the first quarter of the 19th century. And as time has gone by, America's democracy is still here. But around the world, democracies have crumbled. And the idea of democracy is probably as much under threat and under assault today as it's been certainly in my lifetime, and I think in many generations. But the Cherokee democracy still stands. We built that. We did that before the state of Oklahoma was created by an act of Congress. So on that basis, we're still trying to do the same things today. I said that those of us in office today are building on what our predecessors did. They set the table, set the tone, and we continue on as we amass resources, putting them into high priority areas. But it's not just our recent predecessors. It's dating back to time immemorial and everything in between, those periods of the 19th century when our backs were against the wall and we survived and we picked ourselves back up after brutal acts of injustice by this country and rebuilt. and built a great society. We're just trying to continue on what our ancestors did. That takes the form of a lot of things that are important to a lot of people today. Just a few hours ago, members of the council who are here, some that couldn't join us, the deputy chief and I, members of my cabinet, gathered at Rogers State University. And we announced, along with our dear friend, Dr. Larry Rice, we announced a $4 million gift to Rogers State University to build a new STEM building. That's who the Cherokee Nation is. That's what we believe in. That investment is going to help Rogers State University on the way to raising $25 million to build that facility. We're the first major donor. And we need institutions, and we need the state of Oklahoma, and I know there's a piece of legislation that will bring some dollars towards that. We need everyone who can commit themselves to that cause to do it, because that is an example of how we build a bright future in the Cherokee Nation. It's the same mindset that led our ancestors to put 70 cents of every dollar into education, build the female seminary, which you know today is Northeastern State University, build the male seminary, build that system of public education. Our ancestors did that because they had almost lost it all. And they said, if we're not going to lose it all, if this is going to be our home forever, if this is going to be a society in which the days ahead are better than the days that were behind us, then we've got to invest in this generation coming up. Now, that is cliche to say the children are our future, we need to invest in them. It's not cliche if you put dollars to that cause. If you say that higher education matters in this state, in this region, within these tribal lands, you ought to put dollars behind it. You can't just talk about it. And it makes a difference in our future. Having more graduates from college in this region will make a difference in whether that next employer that's looking at this region or even this industrial park passes us by or says this is where we want to call our new corporate home. That's the difference that we're talking about. We've got so many people working on lifting up the economy, but to make sure that that piece of creating a professional, educated pipeline is a full pipeline and is sending people out to all these new jobs that we all want to create, that is indispensable. You can't do it without dollars. If you're going to talk about higher education, you got to put your money where your mouth is. For us, we're doing what our ancestors said we ought to do and we must do and we're compelled to do. We're doing it again today. And so we're going to be excited to see that STEM building come out of the ground, and we know a lot of Cherokees are going to go there. And one other thing I'll mention about this agreement that we struck with Rogers State University is we committed that institution to increase the number of scholarships. So every year for the next 10 years, there'll be 10 scholarships for nursing students for Cherokees at Rogers State University. We need that. This healthcare system that we're building up, the one that Chief Baker committed hundreds of millions of dollars to build up, and that the deputy chief and I and the council are committing hundreds of millions more, means that we're going to have and continue to have state-of-the-art healthcare facilities. That's good for this whole region economically. First and foremost, it's good for our people from a health standpoint, but economically, it is a winner for any community in this country. And there is more investment in healthcare infrastructure in this region, I would bet, than any comparable region in this country. I could take you to Salina, and you know Salina, just down the road. I'll bet you couldn't find a community the size of Salina anywhere in the United States where there's an $85 million outpatient healthcare facility being built, but we're building it there. And in Tahlequah, next to the outpatient facility that Chief Baker built, we're building a hospital to double the size of our inpatient capacity. We are building up other aspects of our healthcare system. There's got to be a commitment in this nation, the Cherokee Nation, and there is, from the council to the deputy chief to myself, to build a world-class system of wellness. It's not enough to have the best healthcare system in Indian country. We want for our people a world-class system of wellness in every way you can think of that. And that's why we're building wellness centers. That's why we're building drug treatment centers. By the way, we're making the opioid industry pay for every single penny of our new drug treatment centers because we got justice from that industry. But all of this healthcare infrastructure building that is so good for health outcomes, We just believe at the Cherokee Nation that you ought to be able to access the best in healthcare, and it shouldn't bankrupt you, and that we're all in it together. That's the philosophy we have, and I think it's a winning philosophy. It's also a winning economic philosophy. The more healthcare investment you have, the more quality jobs you have, the more people are going into jobs that are career jobs, not short-term jobs, jobs that are rewarding, jobs that lift up all the communities all around here. But we've got to have more men and women, and we've got to start with kids who want to be the doctors and nurses and other professionals of tomorrow. And I'm proud to say at Rogers State University, over the next decade, every year, 10 Cherokees going to nursing school at a time when we really need them. In fact, the limiting factor in our health system isn't our ability to build new clinics. We can do that. We can do that. It's, do we have a pipeline of Cherokees? Ultimately, we want the Cherokee people taking care of the Cherokee people. We cannot do that unless, again, we do more than just talk about education, that we actually put real dollars into education. So we're going to see the fruits of, I think, that investment in the years to come. Something else we're getting ready to see the fruits of in the area of healthcare investment. I know of all the things that Chief Baker has to be proud of. In a couple of weeks, he's going to be very proud, because the first graduates from the Oklahoma State University College of Medicine, new doctors graduating in Tahlequah, the capital of the Cherokee Nation. That is the future of healthcare in this region, and it's because the Cherokee Nation and Oklahoma State University had the good sense to work together. That's going to be a glorious day when we see those folks walk across that stage. By the way, at that med school, 20% of the graduates are Native American. Across the country, it's less than 1%. If anyone doubts the commitment of a great institution like Oklahoma State University to the cause of lifting up Native Americans, that doubt should be wiped away if you just get to witness what we're going to do in a couple of weeks. So in the area of healthcare, we've got a lot to be proud of. I mentioned my grandfather, and I think about him as an iron worker and as a World War II veteran. I also think about all the times that he spent, and I spent some time with him, waiting at the Claremore Indian Hospital all day to see a doctor. And people who have waited are laughing in a particularly special way, because you know what I'm talking about. This is a good time to talk about why all this investment particularly matters to our people. Now, I've said that it's in furtherance of our philosophy that everybody ought to get access to health care. It shouldn't bankrupt you, and we're all in it together. But think about where we've come in the last 50 years, even less than 50 years, because my grandfather's experience at the Indian Health Service, the Claremore Indian Hospital, a wonderful institution full of wonderful men and women, but is born of the idea that the government of the United States ought to hand down health care to the native peoples in this country. And sometimes, frankly, the government has handed it down like so many crumbs to the native peoples of this country, falling woefully short. I say sometimes, I should have said every time, because every year they're 60 cents on the dollar in terms of what it takes to run healthcare systems, and they're $1 billion behind on building healthcare facilities. So in that short time frame, if my grandfather was here today, and I'd take him to Pryor, and he'd tell me where he worked as an iron worker, and then we would drive down to Salina, and he would see people hanging iron at that healthcare facility, I think he'd be speechless. I think he would be stunned, but I think something inside him would tell him he knew we could do it. I mean, if the government got out of the way and let the Cherokee people take control of their own destiny, he knew we could do it. So many of his fellow citizens knew we could do it, and today we're in a position to do it. I think we're doing it better than anybody when it comes to healthcare. But it's good for the region. As I said, economically it's good for the region. We've all got to all think about how we can invest in this generation coming up to be the doctors and nurses of tomorrow. There's some other things we're working on locally that are, I think, incredibly important for the economy. If you talk to employers, but I think more important, if you talk to employees who are dealing with child care, you don't have to see statistics to know that that is a limiting factor in a lot of people's personal lives, and it's a limiting factor collectively in the economy. It is your problem and my problem if there's not enough child care. I haven't needed child care for a long time, but we all need to make sure there's plentiful child care. We did a study a few years back on the state of child care across the reservation, and we studied I think we studied every county, and we drilled down to the community level to see what was going on in this county from 2016 to 2021. there was a decrease in slots for childcare of 28%. And that's a really difficult number to deal with, because this area is seen, rightfully so, as an area where the economy is going up and up and up, and the jobs are increasing. And Mid-America Industrial Park is not just a gem of the region, but a gem of the state, and something the rest of the country looks at in terms of places to invest. But none of that will matter to an individual mom and dad if they're one of those that needed a child care slot that's not there. It's a limiting factor. It will limit the economic growth of this region as sure as anything else. You could line up all the tax incentives in the world, and it won't be, in my view, as powerful as what I've already mentioned, which is the commitment to higher education, and in this case, a commitment to childcare. We're doing our part in a facility that I think is going to be something that we can all be proud of, and it's going to be something that makes a positive difference in the lives of so many people who call this community home and work in Mid-America Industrial Park and around the area. We passed a law called the Burnett-Thompson Early Childhood Education Act a few years ago. We're committing $80 million to build new, it's replacing Head Start centers, and we're committing millions of dollars more to invest in other ways we can build child care facilities. So in this Mid-America Industrial Park, you will see a facility coming out of the ground, and I can't wait till it's open, that is a multi-million dollar, multi-million dollar, $16 million investment that's a combination of Head Start and Child Development Center. That is going to ease some of the pressure that drop in child care slots has applied to this region. And I think we all have to do our part. I feel like Cherokee Nation's doing its part when it comes to child care, and we should. It's in all of our interest to make sure that we alleviate that issue for families, because for some families, the difference between going to work and not going to work is whether you have child care. And if you do get child care and it's very expensive, it puts pressure, of course, on a lot of other areas. I want to mention housing. I see my friend, Councilor Danny Callison, who's as strong a champion for housing as anyone I've ever met. He's the reason that in Locust Grove we've got some new affordable housing for families. We had occasion to go over there and hand over the keys. There's more work to do in housing, which is another limiting factor. I know that putting incentives on the table, putting closing funds together, trying to lure companies in terms of dollars on the table, I know it matters. I know we're competing with regions and states, but I'm telling you, a long-term investment, in addition to child care, in addition to higher education, is housing. We've got a housing problem in this community, and I don't have to see the statistics because it's all over the region and it's all over the country. We're doing our part. The council approved $120 million a couple of years ago for the cause of housing. That's improving housing for elders. That's building those low-income units that Councilor Callis and I went to visit just a few months ago, and it's building new housing so people can have a path to the dream of home ownership. We've got to do more. We're going to do a study in the coming months, and I think that study is going to reveal some things. Yes, we should be proud of what we're doing to build homes. We've got lots of housing additions going on across the Cherokee Nation, lots of ways we can lift people up and get them into affordable home loans. I think this study is going to show us that the gap between what we need to do and what we are doing is large. We're the Cherokee Nation. We're not going to throw up our hands and say we can't do it. We're not going to throw up our hands and say it's someone else's problem. We're going to say we built this region. This is our region. This is our tribal lands. And if there's a housing crisis, if there's any crisis, the Cherokee Nation is going to be on the front end of that. We're going to be on the front end of solving that problem. We won't be able to do it alone. We're going to need everybody to come in together. But the cause of affordable housing is something so important to the rural parts of this state. And the rural parts of this state, frankly, need a champion. And I hope people see that Cherokee Nation is a champion for the rural parts of the states. And every time you see a home going up, you'll know it's true. I'm probably overstaying my welcome. I want to touch on a couple more things. Houston will get the hook when it's time to go. But I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about another aspect of education. And I want to tell you that a lot of the school districts around here, certainly the district we're in, do such a great job. And it's not just that there's relatively more resources around here than there are in some districts. There's great school leadership in this area. I've toured some of the schools and met some of the teachers, and we're all impressed and we're all counting on you. But that's true across the region. The other limiting factor for the economy is whether we have a robust public education system. Every dollar you put into public education comes out the other end many more dollars. It's the best investment we can make. Here's the truth. There was a, frankly, retreat from public education by the state of Oklahoma during the past 20 years. Now, it's improved, but we've got a ways to go to make up for it. We spend still less on public education when you adjust for inflation and student count than we did 15 years ago. And so we've got some making up to do. We're doing our part. This is particularly relevant today because there's a lot of discussion about Cherokee Nation car tags, something that you probably don't think a lot about, but you should think about them now. This year, we contributed to this county, the school districts in this county, $605,000 directly to public schools. That comes from those car tags you see going up and down the road. That's how we do our part for public education. Why did we do that? I keep talking about Chief Baker, but I remember when he was on the council, my father was on the council, there was a discussion about issuing car tags. And you know what really impressed me? And I was a young man. They were concerned about what it would do to public schools if we had Cherokee car tags. They were so concerned about it, they went to the state and said, let's strike an historic bargain so that 38% of every car tag sale goes to public schools, directly to public schools. That says something about the Cherokee Nation and how we value public education. That was more than 20 years ago. Since that time, we've expanded the car tag compact to include the entire state in terms of issuing tags, and there's special treatment for the contiguous counties, those counties adjacent to the Cherokee Nation, most notably Tulsa County. Most notably because the number of Cherokees that live there, the number of tags that we sell there, that is a big source of revenue. That's why Tulsa Public Schools this year and last year Tulsa County schools that are public schools received $1.7 million. Now, here's something about Cherokee math versus Oklahoma City math. All right, there's a difference. I'm not even that great a math student, but I can figure this out. When you send $1 to the Cherokee Nation Tax Commission, when 38% of it goes to public schools, that's a whole dollar. Man, the dollar you send goes to your school. And it's unrestricted, by the way. Same is true for police departments and sheriff's office. That dollar that comes from our tag, that whole dollar goes to law enforcement. And roads and bridges, it's a whole dollar. Now, I've been around long enough. I think there's maybe even a former state legislator in the office that he would attest to this if he could. $1 that goes to Oklahoma City has to go down to the House, and then it finds its way over to the Senate. Then it makes its way over to the governor's desk. Then it goes through some agency, and then it goes through some funding formula. $1 from Oklahoma City is not $1. It's not a whole dollar. And that's the difference. And so if you don't know or don't think there's a reason to care about Cherokee Nation car tags, well, I just gave it to you. Hundreds of thousands of dollars to your public schools that don't have any strings attached. Schools that have taken it on the chin so much of the last 15 years have an opportunity to invest in things that make a brighter future for kids who otherwise don't have a voice, but their teachers and their public school administrators and their school board members and the Cherokee Nation try to be their champion. I think about the kids going to robotics competitions right now from some of these rural communities, and they're seeing for the first time what they can be when they apply their minds and their talents and their energy to something like robotics. Well, Cherokee Nation pays for a lot of that, proudly so, or the schools pay for it with those dollars. $1 from the Cherokee Nation is a whole dollar, not part of $1. So here we are right now. We're in an epic struggle with the state of Oklahoma, particularly Governor Stitt, over our car tag compact. It's a complicated compact, but it really boils down to this. Does the compact now work? Ask the public schools in this district: Adair Public Schools, Choteau, Locust Grove, Osage, Pryor Public Schools, $204,000 whole dollars, no strings attached. Salina Public Schools, Wycliffe Schools. Ask those folks if this compact works. Ask Tulsa Public Schools if they can take a $1.7 million hit to their budget next year. It is going to happen if we don't renew the compact. We've got to renew this compact on fair terms. I didn't want to bargain with the governor in public, but I woke up one day and looked on Facebook and saw that he was negotiating through a social media post. So maybe we'll do the same. But I am telling you that the Cherokee Nation will insist on fairness, and if we don't get fairness, I want to be plain with people, we won't have a compact. We'll still issue car tax, but that grand bargain that my father and Chief Baker and all the leaders 20 years ago negotiated with the state, that's been a winner for this state, that furthers the cause of public education, that puts more dollars into sheriff's office and police departments, that paves roads, some roads that wouldn't get paved without us. That grand bargain goes away, and it shouldn't go away. It shouldn't go away. It comes down to this. If you see the world in which tribes strengthen their sovereignty and strengthen their economic might, coming at the expense of someone, I don't think you see the world the right way. The truth of the matter is, as Cherokee Nation gets stronger, what do? You've seen it. I don't have to sell you on it. You can go to Rogers State University and see that STEM building coming out of the ground, and you know where it came from. You can go to these public schools and see what they're doing on lean budgets. You don't have to be convinced where those dollars come from. You see it. You'll see that child care center, that Head Start, coming out of the ground, and people that work in your community dropping their kids off there. You know where the money goes. You know what works. You know whose philosophy is the winning philosophy. You know which government in this state thinks the best days are ahead of us if we do more than talk about it, if we put dollars behind great causes like housing and health care, higher education and common education. Folks, you know the Cherokee Nation. We're the folks that invest in this place like it's our forever home, because it is. A lot of institutions come and go, not the Cherokee Nation. We were here before anyone ever invented the state of Oklahoma. We're going to be here forever. The only question is, what kind of partnerships and friendships do we have? I wish people across this state could come to Mid-America Industrial Park and talk to David Stewart, talk to the people that work here, see that child care center. I wish they could go over to Locust Grove with Councilor Callison and I and see that low-income housing that's quality housing for families. I wish they could go to Kenwood. That's where Speaker Shambaugh has spent many a day, and will be there in about a month to open a $10 million community center that's going to give that community the kind of hope that it deserves and the infrastructure that goes along with it. I could go on and on and on, but I wish the rest of the state could come to Northeast Oklahoma and see all these great partnerships. They would be convinced, anybody that came here would be convinced, that the Cherokee Nation has the right priorities, that we've got the right vision, that we're a big team. Yeah, we may disagree from time to time, but we rally around those things that create a great society. And if they studied a little Cherokee history, they'd know that we didn't invent this. And we're just doing what our ancestors did. Folks, if they came here to this community or so many others across the Cherokee Nation, they would see that we're the best friends you could ever hope for. Treat us with respect, walk hand in hand with us. The best days will be ahead of us. Thank you all very much. What else?
Thank you, Chief, very much. We appreciate your passion. That's why I enjoy having you speak each year. Your passion for the nation, your passion for empowering Cherokee Nation citizens. And you're in your second term. It's very easy for you to just go home and not do anything, but you're not. You're very active, and you're not a lame duck, and you're pushing forward, and I certainly appreciate that. I know everyone else does as well. So thank you again for your passion. We'll talk about that legislative thing later. All right, again, I'd like to thank, I want to recognize one individual I forgot to a while ago. I knew, and see Janice, I messed up, and I actually shook her hand. But our court clerk, Brittany Howard. She's here. There she is. Brittany Truehouse. Again, I'm very thankful for our sponsors. We appreciate you guys. The presenting sponsor, Northeast Electric Cooperative. Also like to thank our table sponsors, Mid-America, Cherokee Nation Career Services, Cherokee Nation Businesses, MUB, and GRDA. So without you guys, we wouldn't make this wouldn't be possible. So thank you guys very much. upcoming events that we have. So we have our golf tournament coming up on the 21st of this month. It's a 4-man scramble. I made a mistake last year and did a 3-man. That was not a good idea. So I was told about it. So we're doing a 4-man scramble on June 21st. So we invite everyone out. We have a maximum of 25 teams. So that's a big fundraiser for us. We appreciate you guys coming out. And then our next, the PACC Luncheon, which will be the first Wednesday in June, will be a legislative update of this current session that's going on right now, if they're not in special session. But there will be the Oklahoma State Chamber of Commerce will be here to give us an update on that, the activities and everything that happened during the past session. So again, we want to thank everyone for being here today, and we wish you safe travels home. And I'll leave you with a quote, as I always do. Keep your eyes on the stars and your feet on the ground. Thank you guys, and have a great day.